Hello everybody, my name is Veladam01 and welcome back to the next episode of City Skylines East of the Curtain. In the previous episode I have built a nice big park on the side of the lake that was created in the water hazard episode. Sadly no cinematic about the park in the intro because there was no cinematic outro at the end of that episode where I built the park. And you know I am often recycling the cinematics in my videos, so no cinematic footage to recycle for the intro about the park, so sorry about that. But anyway, in today's episode I'm going to start building that part of the map that will be heavily inspired by the Csepel island in Hungary, so let's do it. First, what you should know about the island, that this is the largest Danube island in Hungary, 84 km long and 3 km wide by average. But I think there are parts which are even 5 or 6 km wide. The northest point is part of Budapest and the southest point is next to Rácamás, which is almost next to Dunaújváros on the side of the Danube. And what can be found on the island? 11 towns, or 12 if you count the Budapest District on the north of the island. A water treatment plant on the north, big cargo port for the Danube River, and a big industrial area next to the port, the Csepel which doesn't exist anymore, doesn't operate anymore, but the place is used by other companies that bought the properties on the industrial area of the Csepel. A big residential area in the Budapest part of it, which mostly contains big prefab housing estates, because it was built for the workers, because the settlement, the Budapest part, was originally an industrial town. There is one highway on the island and 2 suburban railway lines. There is also an industrial rail line because of the port and the industry. There is a big radio tower, the Lakihegy Radio Tower, which is the tallest structure in Hungary, and it is now unused and a protected industrial monument, but I think it could be still used if anyone would need it, so I think it is operable, but they don't use it. There is also a lot of, I think at least 2 abandoned industrial facilities. One is an old paper factory, which I'm not sure if it's still in operation. There is also a vehicle factory which is not located in Budapest, but it is located in Székely-Szentmiklós. This is the Csepel car factory, which contrary to the name didn't produce cars but produced vehicle parts and also complete trucks like the famous Csepel truck, and it is now completely out of operation. I think the building is still there but they don't use it. There is also an airfield, the Tököl airfield, that was once a military airfield, thanks for the Soviets for this by the way, but it is now a private airfield with no scheduled flights that operate here, but it has a concrete runway and it is used for walking flights and small local air shows, so it is mostly like the aviation club from the Sunset Harbor DLC. And there is also a swampland-like area with a lot of small island and riverside branches, with a lot of weekend houses and bungalows all around the place, so it is maybe a weekend area. And the rest of the island is either waterland area like lakes or agricultural fields or forests, or other built up area like residential or commercial areas. I'm not sure if I will build everything that can be found on the island, or I am going to recreate 100% accurate the island, or I will just leave something out, do something differently, I don't know. But in this episode I will build a small industrial area here. You will see that it is more modern than the other industrial site in the town, and the housing estate in the Budapest part, and also the big radio tower, which in this case won't be located on the island. And here is me building the big prefab housing estate on the island. Yes, this is the second prefab estate in the city. You will see that first I'm going to try some interesting shapes using MeisterMonis' East German prefab assets instead just some boring row houses. I made these L-shaped structures, one red and one grey colored, and I tried to make them same size, the red and grey structures, and I just copied and pasted them all along the main road that comes to the island by trying to not copy the same color right next to each other, and I filled the area between them with pedestrian walkways and playgrounds and dog parks or just car parking lots for the residents, and tried to separate them from the main road using some concrete planters by Aranya. Then I moved to the center of the estate, and here I used some new assets from the workshop, the Czechoslovak prefab houses pack made by Akruas. And yes, I know that these type of buildings aren't present on the Csepel island because they are from a whole different country, but they will fit here perfectly to recreate the Eastern Bloc city vibe. I used the big 10-story variant next to the main road to create some taller houses. You will see that I initially built 5 of them, but the 2 that I built last week were replaced by another tenement type off camera because I wanted to create more variety of buildings, and surrounded them with the 4 or 5-story tall versions. And you can notice that I didn't use the 7-story tall version building of them because in my country they are not so common. Instead of 7-story tall buildings, we have 5 or 4-story tall buildings, story versions of them. Well, not these type of buildings because we have our type of prefab tenements, but they are mostly, what you can see in my country, are mostly 10 or 9-story buildings and 5 or 4-story buildings, and some taller, like 15-story buildings. To decorate the area, I used playgrounds, dog parks, and a lot of pedestrian paths and planter assets made by Granny again. And I just literally planted a lot of trees into the planters because I wanted to give back the outlook of a nice urban area with a lot of trees that gave the citizens shadow so they don't have to walk right under the sun, and to have a nice urban area where it is nice to live because of the parkifying of the area. And I also made a small general store for the housing estate in the middle of it, because if you look at every housing estate in my country, not sure if this is true to other countries, other Eastern Bloc countries, you will often see a general store somewhere around it. Sometimes in the middle of it, sometimes on the edge of it, sometimes a multiple general stores. So this general store contains a penny market, a German store chain, a German supermarket chain that is present in my country, and I also included another building for other shops maybe I should have built a post office here because of, services for the housing estate, but I didn't build. And I also made a parking lot using the big parking lot roads, which I am not sure if it should have been connected like this to the outer roads because traffic. And I decorated the area a little bit by, for example, putting down a delivery truck at the store loading bay. Maybe the goods just were brought here by the truck. And I also placed down street lights with the IMT to light up the parking lot. Built a wall to separate the back of the store from the street behind it, and also put down a lot of planters with a lot of vegetations to decorate the area. And here is the last section of the episode where I will build a large radio tower here next to the river, as I told you before. It was inspired by the Lakihegy Radio Tower on the Csepel island, but this instance here won't be 100% accurate as the original, as the original is located on the island but it isn't, and also the original is diamond shaped and the asset I used is a narrow mast, and also the original is just standing in the middle of nowhere with only just a radio shack around it and not a complete emergency response station. But anyway, the original tower was constructed in 1933 and had to be rebuilt after World War II. It is 314 meters tall and currently it is still the tallest structure of Hungary. It operated until 1977 when it was replaced by a stronger transmitter tower because it was not strong enough when the new type of transmitters appeared. Nowadays the tower is an industrial monument, but what I have read that it is still a backup transmitter for the new one, and electricity companies still use it for transmitting power distribution data. And what I did in the video is also build a police and fire station at the bottom of the radio tower to make the tower a purpose and to not make it just like standing in the middle of nowhere with nothing around it like the original. So I just pretended that it belongs to the emergency response agencies like the police and fire department, and I also made a fence and a small forest around the station, which I think I am going to remove in the future as it kinda blocks the view from other areas, and the area is also missing some security cameras and the forest makes it easier for intruders to enter the territory, and the forest makes easier to hide when they are looked for. But anyway, I built this area, I decorated it with a lot of prop vehicles, a lot of props, and also a nice water tower for the fire department, and this is the part where I just start making the forest around it. But I think this is the end of today's video. At the end you will see some cinematics about what has been built today. If you want to see preview screenshots about the city before new episodes drop, follow me on Twitter. Hope you all enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next episode too. Thanks for watching, see you later, goodbye.